In first class, there was a pregnant woman feeling unwell. When I went to check, it turned out to be Evan's lover. I felt very lost and decided to get a divorce, but Evan disagreed. The pregnant woman caused a scene at my company, which resulted in me losing my job and facing online attacks. Evan appeared very confident, making me compromise, saying that if I just said a word, he could help me get my job back by tomorrow. I ignored his words and asked, "Has the divorce agreement been processed?" Later, the plane I worked on had an accident, and Evan was searching for me everywhere. When he saw my pregnancy checkup report, he completely broke down. "Emily, there's a pregnant woman in first class who is unwell. Hurry and take a look." I put down my lunchbox and quickly crossed the swaying aisle, saying, "You should ask if there are any doctors or nurses on the plane." It was chaotic in first class. A young girl was curled up in her seat, gripping the armrests tightly, looking very pale. As I crouched down, I caught a whiff of that mature scent and the familiar cedarwood fragrance that was Evan's usual aftershave. I suddenly felt something was off. "Lily, are you okay?" I heard a familiar and urgent voice, and I immediately looked up, only to meet Evan's anxious gaze. My heart suddenly felt heavy. The moment he saw me, Evan also appeared very flustered. His eyes seemed to avoid mine, and the first aid kit in his hand fell to the ground with a thud. I was surprised to look at the girl in front of me. She was tightly holding onto a South Sea pearl ring. Suddenly, I remembered the anonymous text I received 3 days ago. In the photo, Evan was gently touching the girl's pregnant belly, with the background being the cliffside hotel where we stayed during our honeymoon in Provence. So it turns out all of this is true. I wasn't mistaken. I looked at the same ring on my hand, silently took it off, and set it aside. Evan's throat moved, and his fingers unconsciously caressed the wedding ring. "What are you all looking at? Don't you know we need to save someone? Emily, this passenger is a gynecologist." When my colleague entered the first-class cabin, all eyes instantly focused on me. They all knew that the man accompanying a pregnant woman was my husband. I was about to stand up to give my seat when the pregnant girl suddenly grabbed my wrist and said, "Sister, help my child." I struggled internally, but I held back my nausea, grasped her sweaty hand, and softly comforted her. "Don't worry. The baby will be fine. We will all be here." The first-class cabin was filled with a tense atmosphere. Clearly, something bad had just happened between Evan and the girl, resulting in bleeding. I felt very upset, so I could only numbly squat by the side, assisting the doctor with the rescue. "Give me the oxygen mask." "It's okay. It's just a bit of nervousness causing hypoxia. You'll feel better in a little while. Remember, never be in the same room together again." After the medical staff left, I stood by and silently put the ring from the table back into my pocket. It was the one Evan had personally put on me for our wedding anniversary, claiming it was a precious item bought at an auction. At that moment, the ring was shining on another woman's hand. Evan didn't look at me. Instead, he immediately sat beside Lily with concern, asking, "How are you feeling? Are you okay?" Lily ran into Evan's arms crying and said, "Evan, I'm so scared." Evan gently comforted her. "Don't be afraid. I'm here. Everything will be fine." He tenderly kissed the girl's forehead in front of me. I watched his actions, feeling a mix of emotions and completely at a loss for words. The true pain isn't in the heart, but in every blood vessel that longs to breathe. I silently packed my things and left the first-class cabin. Evan chased after me and grabbed my wrist. I ignored him and calmly said, "Let's get a divorce." Lily was a bit scared just now. I need to comfort her properly. I looked up, my face showing no expression. I knew there was something else, wasn't there? Evan sighed impatiently. "Can you stop acting like this all the time? I really don't know how to talk to you anymore." I sighed helplessly. "Evan, what did you do with her just now that caused the bleeding? Whose child is in her belly?" "The woman outside is about to give birth, and he actually says I can't communicate. I have things to do. Please don't disturb me." I returned to the storage room with my things. Evan didn't follow me. After the girl finished taking in oxygen, she kept coming to bother me. "Hey, you in the uniform. What's wrong with you? Wearing so much jewelry while working. Do you know you scratched me?" I turned around and saw a small cut on the girl's hand. It seemed like she accidentally scratched me when she grabbed my arm. Following the principle of customer first, I smiled and lowered my head, saying, "I'm sorry. It was an emergency. I didn't notice. The girl coldly smiled and said, "Is this how you flight attendants are? Just brushing off someone you hurt with a casual apology? I'm pregnant. What if something happens to my baby because of you? Quickly apologize to me." I was no longer willing to tolerate the girl's dissatisfaction. How could such a minor injury possibly cause a miscarriage? The girl was even angrier. What kind of attitude is this? Bring your supervisor here. Evan stood silently on the side, watching the commotion. At this moment, the chief flight attendant Michael came over and asked, "I'm sorry, ma'am, what happened?" Michael and I have always had a good relationship. When he saw him, Evan's expression immediately turned sour. The girl firmly stated that she hurt me and demanded that she kneel and apologize. Michael appeared very concerned. "May I ask, ma'am, where are you injured?" The girl confidently pointed at her almost healed wound. Michael said seriously, "Ma'am, our cabin can provide you with bandaging services. As for our staff, they have already apologized to you at the first opportunity. Things happened very suddenly just now. It was an accident while trying to help, and I hope you can understand." The girl became unhappy. Understand? What if I get tetanus? If I die, who will take responsibility? A colleague couldn't stand it any longer and spoke for me. "They just helped you, and I can't understand why you, being pregnant, are acting like this." I grabbed my colleague's hand and said, "Sarah, stop talking." Michael came over and gently patted my shoulder. "Emily, you go down first. I'll handle this." I nodded and prepared to leave. At that moment, a girl stepped forward and grabbed my arm. "You two are really something. Everyone come and see. Still acting like this during work hours. How do you view us passengers?" I really couldn't take it anymore. "Miss, what do you actually want? Please do not casually offend others." The girl was very arrogant. "If you don't kneel down and apologize, I will complain about you." I shot her a cold glance, then turned my gaze to Evan beside me. "You can vote. If we divorce, I should get some money. I don't care about a few salaries. This flight journey is truly unbearable in its length, especially after Lily insisted that I take care of them in first class the entire time." I had received many mysterious anonymous messages and photos before, seemingly provoking me from Evan's other half, but I didn't want to believe it. Actually, Evan and I have been the envy of everyone since college. Our relationship was smooth, and we faced no obstacles. Evan treats me very well, and I like him a lot. I never thought that betrayal would happen between us. But even if I try not to think about those photos, the moment I saw Evan being unfaithful with my own eyes, my heart still ached painfully. I can't accept that Evan, who once loved me like a treasure, is now holding another girl and softly calling her good girl. As the plane was about to land, that girl kept complaining to me. I tell you, with that attitude, she'll be fired sooner or later. In the end, she was coaxed away by Evan. After getting off the plane, I took a car home alone. In the past, every time I got off work, no matter how busy Evan was, he would take the time to pick me up and even bring me a bouquet of flowers. To see me, he would even choose my flight specifically. I was quite busy with work, and so was he. I don't know when it started, but Evan stopped coming to pick me up after work. Sometimes when I get home, he isn't there either. My flowers are gone, and now Evan is about to be gone too. Evan sent that girl away and didn't come home until very late. As soon as he got home, he pulled me out of bed and said, "Emily, what do you mean by this? Who said anything about getting a divorce?" I was woken up and felt no resentment, just a bit helpless. The child is already this big. Do I really have to wait until the first birthday to be told? Evan mumbled in dissatisfaction, looking a bit irritated. "You should know my mom has always wanted a grandson." I looked at Evan calmly. "Is it only your mother who wants one? It's not the first time my mother-in-law has brought up wanting a grandson. She mentioned it even when we were still dating." At that time, Evan fully supported me and told my mother-in-law that Emily was very busy with work and we didn't have time for kids. Having Emily is enough for me. In the years after our marriage, Evan has always been very supportive, helping me deal with his mother's issues so that we could live happily and harmoniously. But now, he himself has brought up wanting children. With red-rimmed eyes and feeling a lot of pain, I looked at Evan blurry-eyed and said, "Haven't I tried enough?" In the 7 years of our marriage, I went through countless IVF treatments to have a child, endured so much pain, almost ruined my body, and even lost my job. But the results were all unsuccessful. Evan was stunned and didn't react for a long time. Then he softened his tone, hugged me, and said, okay, I didn't mean to make you sad. Those difficult days of wanting a child were spent with Evan by my side. He knows best how hard it has been for me. I didn't initiate the hug, but somehow, I ended up crying in his arms. Evan held my hand gently and kissed it, saying, "Emily, how long has it been since we last saw each other?" My heart ached. It's been a long time. I can't even remember exactly how long it has been. I remember that a long time ago when I came back from work, I didn't see him, and then when he came back from work, he didn't see me either. Long time no see. It's been so long that we almost forgot each other. The scent of Evan that fascinates me is still so strong. He held me and whispered in my ear, "Emily, I really miss you. Can you stay with me tonight?" I really want to refuse him, to say no, but I also miss Evan so much. Under Evan's guidance, I relaxed and completely followed him. Afterwards, in the warm light, Evan quietly held me and softly said, "After Lily's baby is born, I will give her some money to leave. At that time, that child will be yours, okay?" Tears streamed down my nose and dripped onto the pillow. Thinking of Lily's pregnant belly, the ring on her hand, and the days and nights they spent together, the defenses in my heart instantly collapsed. I stood up, picked up my clothes, and said, "I want a divorce." I really find it hard to accept betrayal. I thought that after Evan and I got divorced, Lily's situation would come to an end. I didn't expect her to come to my company causing trouble. Lily, pregnant and standing at the office door like an upset woman, angrily said, "Come and see. This flight attendant actually dares to bully passengers, and I'm pregnant." It's this flight attendant who, relying on her good relationship with the chief attendant, casually bullies customers. With a point from Lily, the company colleagues all gathered around. With no other choice, I had to pull her aside and asked, "Lily, what exactly do you want?" Lily raised her head, arms crossed, and replied, "Which time are you asking about? Last time I wanted you to kneel and apologize. This time, I just want to ruin your reputation." Lily looked at me triumphantly and said with a smile, "Evan wants to divorce you now, right? Think about it. If you lose your job, lose your man, and lose your reputation, who would still want you?" I frowned slightly and asked, "What do you mean by that?" Lily stepped closer and said, "Emily, are you a bit flustered? Just wait and see." After Lily left, I felt a bit uneasy, not quite understanding what she meant by losing my reputation. It had only been half an hour since she left when a colleague sent me a link. There are photos in the link of what happened to Lily on the plane that day. There's blood on her skirt, and my caption reads that a flight attendant from a certain airline bullied a pregnant woman, causing severe bleeding. There are many more photos of me below. All of them were taken while I was serving male first-class passengers, in a very humble manner, trying to satisfy them. They were all taken from specific angles. The company's official social media was instantly filled with negative comments, questioning what kind of airline it is that produces such flight attendants. What is the role of a flight attendant? What is going on here? Who would dare to choose their flights in the future? Yes, hurry up and fire her, or I'll demand a refund. I want a refund. I want a refund. The chief flight attendant had no choice but to temporarily ground me, which made me feel very frustrated. Michael accompanied me for coffee and comforted me, saying, "Emily, don't pay too much attention to what's online. People on the internet are just following the trend." I smiled helplessly and said, "It's nothing. There's no point in continuing this conversation." Michael nodded, looked at me, and tentatively asked, "Are you still arguing?" I shook my head and said, "No, I'm getting a divorce." Michael fell silent for a moment and said, "Well, long-distance relationships are indeed hard." I was a bit confused. Why was it okay before? It's not my first time being a flight attendant. So how do you plan to handle it? Now that flights are grounded, are you considering going home to be with your family? I can't go back. My situation with Evan is no longer just about the two of us. There's also Lily and the child she's expecting. We can never go back. Because my influence is quite significant, it has created a negative effect in public opinion, and many people have developed a negative view of our company. After discussing in the group, everyone unanimously agreed that I should apply for voluntary resignation and reflect on the situation, requiring me to publicly apologize online in my personal capacity. "Emily, we understand that you have been wronged, but this trend in public opinion is uncontrollable. We can't let your personal issue affect the interests of our entire company, right?" "But I did nothing wrong. I can't issue an apology statement." If I do, it would be equivalent to admitting that everything Lily wrote that was untrue was my doing. I wasn't planning to agree, and I held my ground in the company meeting room until Evan swaggered over. He casually threw the car keys on the table and confidently said, "As long as you say a word, I guarantee you can go to work properly tomorrow." I ignored his proposal and asked, "How are the divorce procedures coming along?" I didn't respond, and Evan's expression changed immediately. "Emily, do you really want a divorce? Is there someone else? Tell me clearly. Who is it?" As he spoke, he threw out a pile of photos. Lily posted some photos online, where I was serving customers with different smiling poses, bending down. The way the photos were taken was quite unique, somewhat reminiscent of adult film styles. Among a set of uncomfortable photos, there was one of me standing side by side with Michael, looking very innocent. "It's really funny." I looked at those photos on the table, not knowing how to explain. "Think whatever you want, I can't help it." I didn't expect Evan to doubt me so much. Perhaps this has really come to an end. I rejected Evan's proposal. To be honest, I was suspended. After working for so long, I really haven't had a proper chance to relax. On a leisurely day, I went for a spa and unexpectedly ran into Lily. When she saw me, she smugly said, "Oh, the suspended flight attendant?" I smiled at her and said, "Thanks to you, I get to enjoy a paid vacation." Those public photos were deleted by someone, maybe Evan, who doesn't want his wife to be too embarrassed. Everyone can see my work abilities on the crew. Even if the captain grounded me, my salary still comes as usual. I've turned misfortune into fortune. Lily shot me a fierce glare and said seriously, "Emily, I'm telling you, be smart and get a divorce quickly. Otherwise, I have ways to deal with you." I took a sip of orange juice and casually replied, "Instead of dealing with me, you should go find Evan. He's the one who's been dragging out the divorce." "Little sister, you're going in the wrong direction." Lily coldly smiled. "Stop talking nonsense. Someone like you, how could Evan possibly care about you?" I put down my orange juice and walked up to Lily, saying, "Stop saying irrelevant things, see clearly who the main issue is." I fixed my gaze on Lily's belly, and she looked so angry she could jump up. "Emily, this isn't over between us. Lily has the final say. She understands who has pushed me to this point. Now that she is pregnant, regarding the divorce, besides Evan himself, my mother-in-law has the most authority. Since I was suspended, I've been waiting at home for the divorce agreement. My mother-in-law specifically chose to come see me when Evan was not at home. When she arrived, she was very polite, cooked for me, made soup, and wouldn't let me lift a finger, making me feel as if I were the one who was pregnant. Seeing the lavish meal on the table, I felt a bit embarrassed and had to say directly, "Mom, just say what you need to say, no need to be so polite." My mother-in-law served me a bowl of soup, her expression changing slightly, and said directly, "Emily, you've been married to Evan for so many years, and I've treated you well. All these years, you still haven't gotten pregnant. You can't just ignore the future of our Evan family, can you?" Although I had been mentally prepared, my mother-in-law's words still made me feel very uncomfortable. I don't want the Evan family to be without descendants. I also want my own children. However, it's just very difficult for me to get pregnant. Noticing my predicament, my mother-in-law said, "Emily, you know Evan is sentimental. There are some things he can't really handle. Only I, as the mother, can play the villain. Now that Lily is pregnant, with such a big belly, you can't just leave her outside alone. It sounds like you're urging me to get a divorce. I've brought this up before, it's just that the agreement has been stuck with Evan and hasn't been resolved." "Mom, you don't need to say anything more. I agree to the divorce." My mother-in-law is extremely happy. "That's great. Just like that. This is the good child. Come, I've prepared everything. You just need to sign." The mother-in-law immediately took out the divorce agreement she had prepared long ago from her bag. I glanced at the terms and only saw 4 words, "Walk away with nothing." The mother-in-law quickly noticed where my attention was and said that once Lily has the baby, naturally, more money will be needed to raise the child. "Emily, you are capable and talented. You can completely support yourself." A flurry of compliments made me smile helplessly. I understood. After signing, just as Lily said, I lost my job, lost my boyfriend, and lost my money. I feel like no one needs me anymore. Late at night, I wandered aimlessly on the street alone. The 10 years with Evan felt like a beautiful yet illusory dream. The dream has ended, and in the end, I'm left all alone. Michael suddenly called me, sounding very excited. Emily, you can go back to work now. Evan just called the airline where I worked to help me get my position back. At that moment, my mother-in-law went to find him with the signed divorce agreement, saying, "Son, look, Emily has signed the divorce, you should sign it too." My mother-in-law was smiling happily. It seemed she hadn't been this happy in a long time. When Evan saw the divorce agreement, he was immediately shocked, his eyes wide in anger. "Mom, who told you to go find her?" The mother-in-law innocently replied, "It wasn't me who sought her out. She was the one who insisted I have you sign. She said you just wouldn't agree to divorce her," dragging it on endlessly. "She even knelt down and begged me, saying she would give up everything just to divorce you." Evan tightly held the divorce agreement, his face filled with disbelief. "Impossible, impossible. How could Emily say that?" His mother added fuel to the fire. Those were her exact words. "Son, by the way, when I left, I also saw that flight attendant come to find her. It seems she has been in contact with him for a long time. If they are together all day, do you think she still has you in her heart? Didn't a lot of photos get exposed not long ago? Who knows how many men she has been with over the years?" Evan was so angry he tore up the divorce agreement. "Stop talking about it." The mother-in-law was anxious and asked, "Son, you really don't want to get a divorce, do you? Don't be confused. Lily's belly is already so big." Evan's eyes turned red. "Mom, how do you know about Lily?" The mother-in-law was stunned and couldn't say a word. Evan kicked over a chair and angrily said, "I never said I wanted a divorce. I don't want a child. I only want Emily." The mother-in-law was anxious, "But she's already with someone else. You can ask her." "I don't believe it." Evan angrily found Lily and asked, "What did you tell her?" Lily was a bit nervous and said, "I didn't say anything." Evan snatched Lily's phone away. Lily hurriedly wanted to stop him. Evan saw the photos Lily sent me, from when they first started dating to pictures of their vacation at the Cliff Hotel. Countless photos of them together, looking very intimate. Evan was very angry, tightly gripping Lily's neck, asking, "Who told you to find her?" "Lily, have I been too lenient?" Lily's face was flushed and she was struggling to breathe. "Evan, I'm pregnant. Shouldn't we get married? I told her to let go early. What's wrong with divorcing you?" Evan coldly smiled. "What role do you play? I never said I wanted to divorce her." "Lily, I warn you, if you dare to lay hands on her again, don't blame me for being ruthless." Evan called me to come to his house to pick something up. I had just finished a flight, and Michael gave me a ride. On the way, he casually chatted with me. "Did you really get divorced just like that?" I could only smile helplessly. "We've already signed the papers." Evan was eager to leave me, bringing two women to pressure me. However, I couldn't help but tighten my grip on my bag. There was something I wasn't sure if I should tell him. I hadn't returned the keys to Evan's house, so I just opened the door and went in. As soon as the door opened, I saw Lily sitting on Evan's lap, looking very intimate. He asked her, "Lily, did you like the hotel you stayed at last time? I'll accompany you there again after you have the baby." Lily's eyes sparkled with joy. "Really, Evan?" I especially loved that Cliff Hotel. It was both romantic and thrilling. Listening to their conversation, my heart felt a chill. "That's my favorite Cliff Hotel. We went there once during our honeymoon, and I really loved the sunlight pouring through the floor-to-ceiling windows, along with everything else." Evan said he would take me there every year for our wedding anniversary. "I went there a few years ago, but this year I couldn't go due to work, so he went with another woman." Seeing how close they were, I decided to hide the secret in my heart. There were not only my things in the room, but also Evan's. Many of the couple items we used to have are now replaced by Lily's. I opened the drawer and started searching through the things I left behind. After a short while, I became a bit impatient. I stood in the room, looking at the messy environment, feeling very annoyed. At that moment, Evan walked over and casually asked, "What's wrong? Are you reluctant to leave?" I sighed helplessly. Most of my things had already been thrown away. There was nothing much to pack. "You can handle the rest slowly." Just as I was about to turn and leave, Evan asked again, "Emily, why are you in such a hurry to see your other half?" I looked up at him and replied, "Yes." I lowered my head and walked past him, but Evan grabbed my arm, his tone a bit arrogant and somewhat unhappy. "If you take nothing, it makes me seem too petty. I can have my lawyer deal with one of my properties in my car," and I interrupted him without hesitation. "No need, I can take care of myself. Besides, I have my little lover to take care of me. It's better to use that money to take care of your own child. After leaving Evan's house, I was so sad that I couldn't cry. The result of love turned out to be mutual accusations and cruel words. We have been together for 10 years, we have had arguments and quarrels, but never have our thoughts and words been so completely different as they are now. We have always understood each other's feelings and didn't need to argue in this way. Maybe it's really time to end this. We've been married for 7 years without getting pregnant, and unexpectedly, I got pregnant in the month of our divorce. It's really something to laugh and cry about. What's even funnier is that I didn't even get a chance to tell Evan. My pregnancy is going relatively well, with no adverse symptoms affecting my flying. It was just that before getting on the plane, I suddenly started vomiting, and it made me feel dizzy. Michael came to check on me with some concern, saying, "Emily, if it's too much, don't fly. I can have Sarah take your place." I shook my head. Sarah hadn't had a break in several flights. "It's fine, I can manage." I felt uncomfortable before getting on the plane, and even after boarding, I still felt a bit uneasy. The flight was smooth, but suddenly there was severe turbulence as we passed over the ice, which made me feel even more nauseous. People in the cabin started to get anxious, with alarms ringing out one after another. Michael immediately came to my side. It turned out to be a mistake by the captain that caused the unexpected situation with the plane. When Evan found out about the plane incident, he quickly called me, but he couldn't get through. He was so angry that he went to the airline to ask how the plane could have had an accident. The head of the crew comforted him, saying, "Mr. Evan, please stay calm. We regret that there is a problem with the plane." Evan was very angry. "My wife is on that plane. How can I not worry?" "Mr. Evan, the search and rescue team is still at work, and the results are not yet in. Please hold on." Upon hearing that the search and rescue was ongoing, Evan immediately rushed to the scene of the incident. Outside the fence, he looked very anxious. "Officer, what's the situation?" "Mr. Evan, the people we have found are over there, but it seems that Mrs. Evan has not been located." Evan glanced towards the rescue personnel. His heart tightened, and he hurriedly tried to rush in. The officer quickly stopped him, saying, "Mr. Evan, please do not interfere with our work, okay? We will inform you as soon as we have news." Evan felt helpless and had no choice but to go home and wait for news. After returning home, he was unwilling to accept it and kept calling me. All he heard was, "The user you are trying to reach is temporarily unavailable." 2 days and nights passed, and the search and rescue operation ended, yet there was still no news of my wife. Evan completely lost control of himself, urgently calling to ask, "Where is she? Even if she is dead, I want to see the body." "Where is the body? On what basis do you say Emily is dead?" The officer seemed a bit troubled. "Mr. Evan, usually, the crew allows passengers to evacuate first. Even for some lucky passengers, Mrs. Evan, that's not possible. Emily won't die. She absolutely won't die." Evan lost control of his emotions and threw his phone away. The phone hit a vase, creating a crack in the vase's wall. Evan followed his line of sight and discovered a piece of paper hidden in the dirt. He tremblingly pulled out the paper and found it was a clear ultrasound report. "This is the vase I saw before leaving, and in the end, I decided to leave it behind. The ivy in that vase is what we picked together at the flower shop when we got married. The shopkeeper said this plant can live a long time, just like our love, it will never fade. Although we've been busier with work these past 2 years, Evan and I have quietly watered it together, and it has always thrived, never withering. Whether Evan sees it or not, at least I have the chance to tell him." Evan trembled as he picked up the ultrasound report, and the date on it was 2 days before I came to pick up the luggage. "Emily, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me?" Evan is kneeling on the ground, heartbroken and inexpressibly pained. "It's my fault. I deserve to be punished. Emily, I'm really sorry for you and for our child." Evan is on the brink of collapse. He doesn't want to believe that I'm gone, but he still bought a burial plot with 2 empty graves, one large and one small. One is for me, and the other is for our child. The cause of the plane crash has been determined. It was Lily who bribed a cash-strapped pilot. This pilot is also one of the survivors. He was sentenced to life in prison, and so was Lily. Before going to prison, Evan had Lily's child aborted. Lily lay on the operating table crying, "Evan, can you let me go? I'm carrying your child." Evan's tone was chillingly unsettling. "Emily, I also have a child with you. Have you thought about her and the baby? Do you still have any compassion for those innocent people? After Lily went to prison, Evan accompanied me at the cemetery every day. Through wind and rain, he stayed by my side. Emily, we haven't been together for a long time. From now on, let's not be apart for even a day, okay? Evan brings various flowers to my grave every day, just like when we were in love. 3 years later, it was drizzling on the streets of El City. I held my little one's hand, squatted down, and gently tucked a stray hair behind her ear. Sophia, how about I buy you a pair of princess boots? That way, your feet won't get wet in the rain. The little girl jumped up happily, dancing with joy, saying, "Good." I stood up, holding Sophia's hand. When I looked up, I saw Evan. I instinctively widened my eyes and froze there. Evan had white hair mixed in with his hair, making him appear more mature. At the moment I saw him, my heart could not calm down. As soon as Evan saw me, his eyes filled with tears. "Emily, I knew you were okay." He hurried over and hugged me tightly, saying, "Everyone said you died. I didn't believe it." I stood there motionless and softly replied, "Sir, you have the wrong person. Emily, I will always recognize you." Evan held my hand and turned his gaze to the little girl beside us. He crouched down carefully and said to Sophia, "Baby, I am your dad, I am your father." The tears in Evan's eyes made my heart ache. I actually know what he has been through these past 3 years. However, I still cannot accept his betrayal. Sophia frowned slightly, shook her head, and said softly, "You're not my dad." The little girl pointed in the other direction and said, "My dad is over there." At that moment, Michael walked out holding an umbrella and a transparent rain skirt, saying, "Little princess, put this on so you won't get wet." When he saw Evan, Michael was clearly taken aback, but he still crouched down and helped Sophia put on the transparent rain skirt. Sophia affectionately kissed him. Evan shook his head and said in disbelief, "Emily, that's our child, right?" I replied with dim eyes, "You can see it too, Michael is her father." "Emily, it's okay. It doesn't matter whose child it is, as long as it's yours, I'm willing to raise her." "Emily, I really miss you. I hope you can come back." I took 2 steps back and replied, "Evan, we are already divorced. I have started a new life. Please don't disturb me anymore. Goodbye." "We haven't truly divorced. I never signed the divorce agreement, Emily. I never wanted to be apart from you." I clenched my fists and said, "But Emily has already passed away. At least, her household registration has been cancelled. She is no longer his wife on the marriage certificate. My name is now Michael." I lowered my head and quickly walked past Evan, joining Michael. "Dad, Michael, I want to buy princess shoes." "Okay. I support whatever our little princess wants to buy." Michael looked at me and remained silent for a while. "Emily, do you really not want to forgive him? Is it really right to deceive Sophia like this?" Since the plane crash, Michael saved me, and I've been in poor condition. By July and August, Sophia began showing signs of preterm birth, so she looks younger than her actual age. I shook my head, not very sure. Maybe one day there will be a conclusion. I was with Evan for 3 years, married for 7, and we've spent a full 10 years together. But in the end, we still couldn't withstand the passage of time. We couldn't resist his loneliness, nor could we resist his desire for children. Later, I had a child, but we separated. Maybe that's just fate. The rain outside grew heavier, with raindrops constantly hitting the umbrella. The blank expression in my eyes filled my heart with pain. "Evan, what would yourself from 10 years ago think of you now? If myself from 10 years ago saw me now, what choice would I make? I don't know. We can't go back." That accident made me think about many things, unrelated to love or hate. Since then, I just want to raise Sophia well.